well above and beyond what we believed our requirement was there. So I believe we do support the fire district both specifically financially and we support them as a partner in our community, I believe. Yep, Squire Gentry.
Yeah, I definitely support the fire department. They are their own tax district. Like I said, if we've supported South Woodford Water as well when they needed it. I just don't see putting this extra increase on the citizens. Like, if they need help, then we can probably help them.
Thank you, Squire Gentry. Squire Gill, you're recognized.
Thank you. The fire district does a great job, and they have done a lot of improvements. They have had a lot of capital expenses. But that being said, I don't know if I've ever seen a dime tax increase in Woodford County. And I'm just curious if that's their only source of income. I mean, fiscal court, we don't just live on property tax. I'm just curious with the fire district what their sources of revenue are. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Gill. And I think that's a good place to hold the couple questions that we had specifically from Squire Brown and Squire Gill for the chief. I know that he plans to be here. We are 1 minute from our fiscal court meeting. It pained me so to delay our last fiscal court meeting. Try to never do that again. So we are now adjourned from the special meeting of the Committee of the Whole, and we will reconvene in 1 minute for the regular meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court.
You get to make all of it. Oh gosh. How are you? Everybody doing okay now? Yes. Good.
I'll see what you think. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court. I will call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor. Here. Squire Gentry. Here. Squire Varner.
Here.
Squire Carl.
Here.
Squire Downey.
Here.
Squire Blackburn.
Present.
Squire Gill.
Here.
Squire Brown.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Offering our invocation today is Mr. Tony Harden, pastor at Journey Church. Thank you for joining us.
Let's pray. Lord, as a matter of priority, we first pause to just dedicate this meeting to you. And God, we pray that what we do tonight would give you praise and give you honor. God, as I pondered my thoughts this afternoon, I was brought to the scripture where your word states that leaders, worldly leaders, are as such because you ordain them to be. And so, God, I pray that even though we make the choice of whether we follow your guidance, I pray that these men and women of this court would do just that. That, Lord, they would govern our community with truth and grace that honors Christ. God, I pray a special blessing on them, and I pray blessings on all those that they serve, and it is in your Son and our Savior's name that I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Harden. That was a wonderful prayer, and we appreciate Journey Church and all your congregation does. And Journey Camp was exceptional this summer, taking care of all our kids out there. It was full, over 300 kids. If you would, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It is a great nation. Indeed, the Olympic champion of the world and two-time world champion. Greatest nation on the face of the earth, the United States. God bless our great country. I would like to open up the floor for anybody who would like to address the public or the fiscal court in public comment. And I would note that we had a moment of public comment in our meeting prior here too, and we welcome anybody else who wishes to speak and give a public comment. Going once, going twice, going a third time. Seeing nobody wishing to express any additional public comment, we will move forward with our agenda. We have a Good of the County program for you. We'll hold that until a few folks arrive, and we will move on to the approval of the special meeting of July 23rd, 2024, and the regular meeting of July 23rd, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections on any of those meeting minutes? Seeing none. Are there any questions or comments on any of the minutes? Are there any objections to approving same? Also, seeing none, I will approve the minutes as presented without objection. Moving on to committee reports. The Contracts and Leases Committee of the Fiscal Court met when we discussed the Woodford County Fair Board Association lease. We went through the provisions of that and educated the court on the 2022 amendment adoption of that lease. We were welcome to have Mary Lou Watkins, the chair of the Woodford County Fair Board, and the vice chair, Mr. Jesse Whitaker, as well as other members of the Fair Board and Governing Board. Madam Chair Watkins discussed the Fair Board potentially, sounds like imminently looking to apply for a grant for a building at the Woodford County Fairgrounds. We held discussion thereon. We also had a discussion on the MWM EDA contract renewal. That was unanimously recommended for the Fiscal Court to approve. So upon the recommendation of the Contracts and Leases Committee, I would entertain a renewed motion to adopt the contract for MWM as recommended by the committee.
So moved.
Motion by Darrell Varner.
Second.
Second by Lyles Taylor. Are there any questions or comments from the full Fiscal Court regarding the contract lease renewal? Excuse me, the contract renewal. Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 I knew it. All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. The second item was the special meeting of the Woodford County Fiscal Court, which met to discuss the tax rates for the county and the Huntertown Road safety discussion. We were not able to make it to the Huntertown Road safety discussion, but we'll maybe pick that up here momentarily. But we did engage in the tax rate discussion. We specifically had the chief of the Woodford County Fire District to discuss the fire district's tax rate. Prior thereto, we had neighbors from the Milner-Tyrone Road area who wished to seek to ask questions and make public comment to the Fiscal Court. There was a motion to suspend the rules to allow public comment that passed unanimously, and we received that public comment, which is now of record. Mr. County Attorney, there were questions raised within that public comment that you may have the ability to provide some insight on.
Yeah, Judge, beyond the ones we just addressed, which...
In relation to the question about what the Fiscal Court plans to do with any legal matters related to the Rail Explorers.
Oh, okay. Well, how do I put this, Judge? The Fiscal Court has monitored and continues to monitor the situation, and if and when the Fiscal Court has something to report in terms of any formal action, which could and will be taken. As with anything else, I believe the Fiscal Court would announce that, make it an agenda item for the action to be considered and possibly taken, so public notice will be given in that regard if anyone wishes to attend that meeting. For example, that's not on the agenda tonight. That's why there'd be no action taken. I have to preface that with whenever, if ever, that might be, because at this time, as I've previously publicly stated, no formal action is legally ripe to be undertaken at this time. I cannot estimate if and when it might be ripe for the court action, because the Fiscal Court does not know what further developments there might be that would trigger that. Hopefully the concerns which have been expressed at these past several meetings will continue to be considered and addressed by the Rail Explorers to act upon. And the hope is that any issue which possibly could have involved the Fiscal Court will be resolved. And when I hear that when is the fiscal court going to do something, I think in a sense that misstates what's happened to this point in time. And I hear that because I guess the only answer that is expected is filing some sort of action. The fiscal court has interjected and involved itself at the request of those neighbors who live along the railway. As everyone knows, this really came to light because of the zone change, which was approved and recommended by the Planning Commission, not the fiscal court, and then sent to the city council, not the fiscal court, which allowed that zone map amendment to occur by operation of law. They didn't act upon it, they didn't vote upon it, so the time ran and it occurred. However, subsequent to that, there has been no construction or other activity on the property that was the subject of that, which could have then triggered some involvement by the fiscal court. So even though that hadn't happened, the fiscal court has taken it upon itself to kind of serve as an intermediary, as a mediator, to do what they can to assist and have the concerns expressed addressed. I believe they've done that, and I'm confident they will continue to do that. But if there is an expectation that, for example, they're going to go file a lawsuit, that is not ripe at this point in time. And I could not, as their legal counsel, allow them just to run into court when they don't have a basis to do so. And so if the hope was that there would be some report that they're suing either the Bluegrass Railroad Museum or the Rail Explorers, I am sorry to disappoint anyone, but they're not going to hear that. And I don't know if or when or if ever they will hear that. Keep in mind, that situation is a contract that involves two private entities, primarily involves the rail line that is owned by Bluegrass Railroad Museum. It happens to cut through the county park, but that property, the rail line and 50-foot right-of-way on each side, is owned by the Bluegrass Railroad Museum, not by the fiscal court. If there is something that develops after today that would cause the fiscal court to get involved, then I'm confident they would. But I think I have to be as blunt as possible in fairness to those who've attended these many times. If the hope or expectation was they're going to hear something to the effect of, well, the fiscal court's ready to do this or to do that, it is not at that point. A matter has to be legally ripe, and at this point in time, it is not. To trigger involvement, formal legal involvement by the Woodford County Fiscal Court. They will continue to do what they can to be of assistance. Of that, I'm confident. I think the very fact that the judge continues to open the floor up for these concerns and consideration shows that. But again, and they brought in, the fiscal court's the one who brought in the Rail Explorers executive to address these issues. But if anyone is expecting to hear that tonight they're going to direct and authorize me to do A, B, and C, it is not ripe for that. And I've always taken the position, you don't say what you think people want to hear. You say what you think people need to hear. You need to be straight and upfront and honest with people. You don't need to mislead them. You don't need to give them false hope or expectations. So if that's what the thought was from some or all those who've been attending, I'm sorry, but that's simply not the case. It may become the case, and I would be the first to report that if it is. But as we sit here tonight, this matter does not have a basis for the fiscal court to be legally, formally involved in a court action. And I don't know what else I can say, Judge, beyond that.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney. I appreciate you addressing that issue. All right. We're still in the reports of committees, the report from the Committee of the Whole. We addressed the public comments thereon, and then we discussed the issue of tax rates in Woodford County. To catch folks up, as a matter of report, the chief of the Woodford County Fire Protection District was here to discuss the proposed tax rate for the Fire Protection District for 2024. We also discussed the Woodford County Fiscal Court's proposed tax rate briefly. That is also on the agenda item. Chief, because you're here and you've been here, and we won't wait till the later part of the agenda, in our final moments of our last meeting, we had 2 questions from Squire Brown and Squire Gill. And if you would be available and avail yourself to questions and to be involved in this discussion, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Squire Brown, you asked the first question. Okay, yeah, Squire Gill, you're welcome to ask questions of the chief.
Thanks, Chief, for being here. And I was just wondering, what are your other sources of income besides property tax?
We get motor vehicle tax, boat tax, and then we get barrel tax, which starts decreasing next year.
Is that new? I'm sorry, Judge.
Squire Taylor, you're recognized, sir.
I just wanted to clarify on that. Is that, it does for us, with the last minute amendment they put on that, are you all, I mean, they had a really funky formula on that for special taxing districts for fire districts and EMS that are not run by counties or cities, that it was supposed to maintain that same, is that the interpretation of the
It's a
council?
4% decrease starting next year, and it continues on, from my understanding, till it vanishes, till it's gone.
That's, okay.
Unless something's changed that I didn't hear about, but that was the last thing that our attorney and the board discussed, was it starts fading out starting next year. And that's $120,000 that will start vanishing each year that we get from them. So we're going to lose that.
Thank you, Squire Taylor. Squire Brown?
Chief, I've been around a long time with y'all and stuff. You do a good job, and I really don't believe you'd be asking for the money if you didn't need it. But what you're asking for, the percent you're asking for stuff is pretty good chunk of change. So do you think you can make it if we decide that you couldn't?
It'd be very close, and we get into what reserve we had for our trucks. One truck we got ordered to finish paying for it, and then I wouldn't be able to order another tanker that I need to have in play. It takes 28 months to get a truck, and you have to place your order. Just like the engine, we ordered it in February, and in about a year to a year and a half, we can try to place an order for a tanker, so they kind of stagger coming in.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the reason, like in the reserve, you see that's money to go towards purchase of new equipment and not have to borrow money to buy trucks and stuff. We try to have the money there when we purchase the truck. And I mentioned earlier ordering an engine for $542,000. That's just the engine. That's no equipment on that truck. So all that has to be ordered once we receive the truck to have the truck up to spec of what we need for the fire district. So, and this tax money that we get is the only money that we get. We don't have any other sources of income coming in from anybody. It's all through the taxing district that we get.
Okay, and you also said that you're going to have to hire 3 more people.
Well, to be considered a full 2448, we need 4 people established at the station at all times to get the full recognition of a 2448. We had a starting point. Now we're just trying to build that.
Okay.
And 3 people, it's probably one person that probably cost us $75,000 per person, maybe a little more than that. I don't have the figures right off. Per person when you go to add just one individual with all the benefits, the insurance and all that stuff that goes into it. So that's another expense that, we're looking at that we'd have to have, so.
So you feel if the increase you're asked, even though that the property tax and stuff been up, y'all have already figured that in as far as you know?
The numbers that the lawyer gave us, it was all figured in, and then I just pulled up an email from that, and it's right at 275,000 that we'll be getting
Okay,
above is the number. I knew it was close to 300, but it's 275.
okay, thank you so much.
And I'd like to add that when they looked at this tax increase, it was that we don't have to come back next year and do the same thing, and the next year and do the same thing. Hopefully this will hold us at a steady line. Like last time we were at we stayed for 6 years and didn't have to ask for anything. So we're trying to maintain that.
Chief, I had a question. In your estimated expenditures on personnel, it says commissioners' salaries, $130,000. What does that relate to?
Don't know about the commissioners. It should have been
It's 5,900.
5,000. I don't know.
The health insurance is the other.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5,900.
Yeah, I want
Health
to say,
health
I don't know
insurance
about
is
that one.
130. So is that for your board members?
That's board member, yes, sir.
Chair and board members?
Yeah,
Thank
7
you.
of them.
Thank you. Other questions or comments for the chief regarding the proposed Woodford County Fire District tax rate? Yeah, Squire Gill, you're recognized.
Thank you. Are there grants available for all these capital
There's
expenditures?
some, they're hard to get. We put in a few times and never, like for an engine or a ladder truck and never had any luck of getting it. I know the city for sales put in for an engine last year and they didn't get it. I don't know exactly how the grants work of who they pick and all that, but they're tough to get.
I just wonder, the fiscal court has had a lot of success with grants. I just wondered if our grant experts could maybe help with that.
Yes, I would extend that partnership and service for sure.
But everything we're doing is just trying to improve the fire district at all times. I mean, it's growing. Our run volumes are up. A year and a half ago, we used to do between 40 to maybe 50 on a high month, and now we're at 70 or more. Telephones, people going down the interstate, they don't check on nobody. It's just a 911 call. The elderly people get the life alerts. We get there and get in the house, beat on the door, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" They don't even know they hit it. Well, that's expense for us. Every time we go out and chase those people and the interstates, BG Parkway, I-64, we get calls, cars on fire. You get out there, it just overheated. It's just the cell phones have really changed the way that we have to run. If we get the call, we have to go. We can't just say, it's just an overheated car, or that person, they just hit the button. We have to respond to that, just like the vehicle is on fire. We had the whole crew has to go. So that's just another big expense that I can't control for cell phones. So I mean, it's went up in a year and a half. It's went way up.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes. Chief, I appreciate you being here and I appreciate what you all are doing. Right here, what you just said, excuse me. That's just the reality now. It's things you can't control, and somewhere we got to figure things out and still function the best way we can. And it's a reality, so I thank you.
Other questions or comments for the chief regarding the tax rate? Squire Gentry?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the main tax rate.
Other questions or comments regarding the tax rate discussion? Squire Taylor, you're recognized.
I don't want to be out of order on this. Could the county attorney clarify our options on the issue?
The fiscal court clerk sent out those.
Yes.
On what the court can do.
I just particularly wanted to clarify if what would occur if there were disapproval of the rate.
If the fiscal court did not vote to approve the rate would remain the same.
Not as opposed, because sorry, the way I read the guidelines on it, it would actually not be able to exceed the compensating rate, not remaining the same, as opposed to remaining the same.
Madam Clerk, do you have a clarification?
From our understanding, there's the 4 different options. They can approve to or fail to act on proposed rate, which allows the fee to proceed. They can approve a rate that is less than the proposed rate, but greater than the compensating rate. It can approve a rate that is less than the proposed rate when the rate is levied for the first time, or disapprove the rate, which allows the special purpose government entity to levy only a rate that does not exceed the compensating tax rate.
And Squire Taylor, the reason that I said that is we're in the final weeks of tax season, so that the sheriff can issue the tax bills. It would be probably difficult, but maybe not undoable for them to then go back and raise it to the compensating rate, which would make it stay the same because they wouldn't have the ability to act to move it to the compensating rate. And just for those following, this is a complicated issue. The fiscal court has never taken up a tax increase along these lines. But the statute lays out, number one, that it is our responsibility to approve or disapprove of the rate. Again, if we do nothing, the fee proceeds. If we can set a rate that is less than the proposed rate but greater than the compensating rate, approve a rate that is less than the proposed rate when the rate is levied for the first time, but that's not the case in this. So option 3 is not an option. Or disapprove the rate, which allows the fire protection district to levy a rate, and they would have to levy that through a formal action of their board. That's what I meant. And if the entity is it may not exceed the compensating rate if we disapprove the rate here today.
I guess that's my point of clarification. Does that is that below what their existing rate is?
The compensating rate? Your question is the compensating rate below their current rate? Chief, do you know the answer to that?
The compass, I don't know how exactly, those numbers confuse me, but we're at .063, and the compensation rate is 0.4 something of that compensation rate. There's I don't know how to figure the numbers. It's a big spreadsheet to do, but sometimes you have to watch and figure in that numbers. You can take the compensation rate and actually go backwards for the percentage that it gives you on the 0.63. You can actually lose money when you do that. And I don't know how to explain it. It'd take our attorney to do that or something to explain it better than that.
The way I was reading the form, judges, was that it was 0.0588 is the compensating rate.
That is correct. I believe you're correct, Squire Taylor. Other questions or comments? Squire Downey.
To piggyback off Squire Taylor, and thanks for that clarification, we do have the ability, the second option is approve a rate that is less than the proposed rate but greater than the compensating rate, which would be their current rate.
That is correct, Squire Downey.
Yeah. Thank you.
And let me make this most important point. This is the committee report from the Committee of the Whole. We have the ability to think about this for a moment and take it up in new business. We can take it up in new business, make a final disposition on this specific item. My understanding, Squire Taylor, and what I'm getting at is we would need to call some sort of special meeting if we were not able to act tonight. Or if we did not act, it would just go into effect as proposed. But my recommendation to the court would be to fully discuss this issue, Because I do believe, Chief, you mentioned this, but you have had a public hearing, like we just had one earlier.
Yes, sir.
And so you've sought public input, the board has met, everything on their end has been done. This is what they're bringing to us, and our requirement under the statute is to make disposition thereon. So, what I will do is, Chief, if it's all right with you, we will take it up in new business to allow the fiscal court to digest the complicated nature of the SPGE approval and disapproval, and we will take that vote in new business.
Okay.
All right, continue the report of the Committee of the Whole. We did not make it to the Huntertown Road Safety discussion, Squire Blackford. My understanding is we had the road department with some magistrates met with Adam Kirk of the University of Kentucky. Today, August 13th, Adam Kirk issued an additional memorandum regarding the Woodford County Huntertown Road pedestrian crossings. We got that this afternoon, so I'd like for the court to take the opportunity to digest that. I would also like to note that upon my request to the Chief of Police, Mr. Mike Murray, for increased additional traffic safety at Huntertown School during the opening of school, the police were there. They had no issues and dealt with no issues in the first 4 days. And we didn't receive any comments or questions regarding the traffic control for the school, but we did, there were no issues noted from either the police or the school side of it. And just so you all know, I've been in discussions with the Chief of Police specifically about Huntertown road safety and talked to school officials, including Superintendent Danny Atkins, about issues related to the Huntertown school entrance and the Huntertown road safety. I did also receive this afternoon an email from Brian Oates. Brian and Amy Oates were some of the initial constituents who contacted Squire Blackford and myself about this. I will forward that information to the court. I received it right before this meeting. I didn't have the opportunity to digest that. I scanned it, but I'd like for the opportunity for the court and the road committee specifically to digest that. I know that Operations Supervisor Tracy Wright also held a meeting with Adam Kirk yesterday morning, I believe, at 7:30 yesterday morning. And they did another supervision of the intersection during the school drop-off hours. So that is what has happened on the Huntertown Road safety discussion. Dr. Adam Kirk's report memorandum is something that we need to look at. We need to take under advisement Brian Oates' email and continue to work on the safety issues on Huntertown Road, not only at Huntertown, Woodburn Hall, Hunters Ridge, but Edmonds Cross, Huntertown, and all the other corridor from Montgomery on beyond that. So I would ask if Squire Blackford or Squire Gill, whose district this is pertains directly to, if they had any additional questions or comments regarding the Huntertown Road safety discussion.
Yeah, I met with thank you, John. I met with Mary Ann Gill and Tracy and Adam, I guess about a couple weeks ago, and we was out there doing early morning hours, discussing and looking at the area there, and my whole thing is that I know what he's saying here on paper. 30 they was going 39 miles per hour, and hope to adjust the speed to 35. Excuse me. Which I think is really an eye test. You know, I understand what they said about the speed there, but we have a lot of traffic over there, a lot of human traffic over there. Like I said earlier, we got 2 schools, 2 churches, and 10 neighborhoods that enter on Huntertown Road constantly. And the more we stand out there, you know, when you say they're going just only 39, they're really going about 40. You know, and so I'm thinking if you can slow the traffic down over there, it's going to be much safer for everybody. just not for what they are doing on analysis or observation, what they're seeing, reading the number of traffic and the speed, those kind of things. And my feeling too is that we know we're going to have a lot of traffic over, a lot of development over there, and I hope that we can get ahead of this now to make it safer. I don't know why it's such a problem to make it safer now as opposed to waiting. And we know everything's going to get bigger and we get more traffic going. And we've changed speed limit on other roads before, no children around. And I know in this court here we have magistrates with children, and I'm sure that we want our children to be entering, you want your children to be entering school safely, whatever you can do, you know. And so I just think that having signs and slowing traffic down over there, four-way stops at those places will help to change behavior. And it's going to make a safer entrance on the Huntertown Road period. Because I do know this over there, I'm going with the eye test. You can come down Huntertown Road, people are flying down all the time. I mean, it's just it's a habit now. And how's it going to change the habit behaviors? By putting signs there. They will get the habit of slowing down and get adjusted to the sign change over there. And so make it safe for everybody, you know. So I just think that it's better that way to just get ahead. That's my whole concern. And
Thank you, Squire Blackford. Squire Gill?
I'd just like to make the point to the fiscal court that the whole length of Huntertown Road, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. But in this 1 mile section, there are 5 4-way intersections, 2 3-way intersections. There are 11 private driveways and a separate entrance for a school and church. And there are, as Squire Blackford said, the schools and the churches. There are also signs in those school zones where it's a 25 mile an hour speed limit sign. At one of the 4-way intersections, there's another 25 mile an hour speed limit sign. I don't know what the problem would be for that 1 mile of road to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. I walk that road every day, and people fly. And where they did the traffic study, they did it in a school zone in front of St. Leo. But as you go out of town towards the more rural part of Huntertown Road, people speed up. And I think it's an easy fix. And it's confusing, 35, 25, 35, 25. It goes back and forth in that 1 mile section. Go drive it and look at it. I think an easy fix would be just to lower that section, the whole thing, to 25 past the schools.
Judge me. Yeah.
Mr. County Attorney, sir, you're recognized.
Squire Gill, if you'll confirm when we spoke about this, so so make sure everybody understands, you're talking about like from the Montgomery entrance to like Paddock almost. Is that the area you're talking about?
To Huntertown Glen.
Oh, yes. Paddock Drive is on the other side, yes.
Right.
So you're talking
From
about
Montgomery
when
to
one comes off
Huntertown Glen.
Montgomery, hangs right onto Huntertown Road all the way
Right.
to that area.
That's roughly 1 mile.
Yeah, okay. And then 35 from there out to the end to US 60.
So I'd just like the fiscal court to consider that when they look at this information, this new information that they've gotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Gill. Squire Gentry.
Yeah, just a quick question, it might be for Tracy and Bo. What is the procedure for changing the speed limit on a county road? Do you have to get signatures for? Just we have the power just to do it? You do it. Okay.
Mr. County Attorney, will you explain that process?
You want their input, but you all have to make a vote of the court to do it. You have to be specific in the stretch of roadway to be affected, and then it just becomes an order of the fiscal court, and then they will post signage to reflect any change if there is a change. But you do want their input before you make that kind of decision.
Thank you. That's definitely something that can be considered. I believe, this is my personal opinion, that the entire corridor, due to the nature of exactly what Squire Gill illustrated about all the entrances, it is essentially an interior subdivision road, as we've discussed. That means that you can't just take one section and say we need to do something here. I think it needs a holistic approach, including speed, signaling, striping, lights, all those sort of things that we're asking Adam Wright and the engineers at the College of Engineering and the Kentucky Transportation Center to advise us on. At the end of the day, it's our decision, but I believe any decision that involves safety, we should have it supported by the Transportation Center and engineers, and that's what we're doing. Squire Blackford, there's no delay. I mean, we are not acting upon a four-way stop today, but we are actively working. Again, Tracy met yesterday with Adam Kirk. You all met on August the 1st. We're working on this actively. And because this issue of safety has been brought up, my goal has been to make sure that in the absence of anything we're doing, that police presence and law enforcement will help us maintain in the short term some modicum of safety and speed enforcement, so that, but in the interim, while we're trying to make a decision, that we do have safety measures in place, which are going on. And I want to express my great gratitude to the chief of police and the officers who do that. You know, there are every drop-off and pickup line in this community is a congested issue that can cause issues. I rode the bus on the first day of school. I went to the Woodford County Middle School. I sent my kids to North Side. I got a call about South Side. We know about Huntertown. I could continue to go on, but these are issues that, because Huntertown Road is a county road, that we need to look at a holistic approach, in my opinion. And I appreciate you, Squire Blackford, in bringing this issue to us. Our goal would be to docket this for a road committee meeting at our next meeting to continue to discuss, and we will add, Squire Gill, the investigation on lowering the speed limit from 35 to 25 in that area. And if you could work with the road supervisor in identifying the exact areas, you could probably even use Mr. Kenneth Johns and his mapping skills. But if we can work on that, I think we'll move that discussion on down the road. Squire Blackford, Squire Gill, anything additional before we conclude this report? All right, seeing none, that's the total sum of the Committee of the Whole. Eventful Committee of the Whole. Some would say robust agenda. And we have a lot of important reports to come up, but we do have something that I'd like to do. We have a good of the county for the good of the greatest county in all of the universe, Woodford County. We have a special recognition. Departing as a county government employee tomorrow is our own Mr. Connor Brumley. Connor leaves us to go on to bigger and better things, specifically to enroll and go to the University of Kentucky. Connor has been a diligent and faithful county employee. For his age and level of experience, he has risen to the challenge of helping us operate the fiscal court offices and my office as judge executive. And Connor has been a exemplary student and intern and indeed county employee for Woodford County. So today, Connor, we'd like to call you to the podium so that we can make you blush even more. We've had a very serious and somewhat intense meeting. Connor has gotten to see how the sausage is made in local government. He's gotten to see some really important issues, some really tense issues, and some really great things done by our fiscal court and our county government. And Connor, it represents the best of Woodford County. What we want our children to do is to succeed, to dream big, to reach high for the stars, and to achieve big things. And Connor has done that. You all know that he was the governor of the Kentucky Youth Assembly. He's held various leadership roles in school. Some say he's the voice of his generation. He's a beautiful, has a beautiful voice. He's excellent choral master. And one of the things that I appreciate most about Connor is he is kind and caring to everyone. And in moments that are tense, and in moments that are tough, and in moments that are challenging in this building, Connor is always there to remind us of why we're here, to do the work of the people for Woodford County and to do good. And he's been so kind and gracious to everyone. He's taken phone calls where he's heard words that I wish he wouldn't in county government, but he's handled it with grace. He's handled it with professionalism, and he's done big things on behalf of our fiscal court and our community. And we'd like to recognize you for all of your achievements, but specifically the hard work you've done on behalf of the fiscal court as an intern and county employee. And we'd like to thank you and your mom, Liz Kirk, for raising a good young man. Your mom and dad, they've done an excellent job. And we wish you all the best at the University of Kentucky. Go Cats, Connor. So, ladies and gentlemen, Connor Brumley, everybody. Connor, like me, you probably never want to speak into a mic or take a picture or do a selfie, but we've opened the mic for you to address this full courtroom and our fiscal court and the public and the Woodford Sun. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Judge Kay. Serving Woodford County the last 2.5 years, I was hired at 15 years old, ending sophomore year, and this has been definitely an opportunity that any political history nerd could ever dream of at 15, and I've really grown up a lot of my high school life in this role. So I think the court, Judge Kay and Jordan and Melody and many, many others along the way that have made this opportunity just really impactful on my life. And it's been an honor to serve the people of Woodford County in this way. And I hope to serve the county again in the future in various other avenues as well. So thank you again to the entire court. It's been one of the greatest honors of a lifetime, and do know I'm not that far down the road, so I will be making an impact here again soon, but very thankful for everything you guys have done in my life. You've truly made, I've been changed for the better as a result, so thank you guys.
Thank you, Connor. We're so proud of you, buddy. We're so proud of you. Thank you, Connor. Yeah, Scott.
Connor, perhaps a stand up here, and then I can get a picture with.
Hey, Connor, why don't you come up to my chair? She's returning to the University of Louisville for her sophomore year. And we also have Kristen Bailey. Kristen has filled in for Emily Castle on her maternity leave and stepped up as a county employee. She is a sophomore at the University of Kentucky and also one of the biggest Taylor Swift fans I've ever heard of. But Connor and Kristen make an excellent team. They perform well above their age and maturity level, and we're lucky to have them. And thank you, guys. We appreciate you big time. All right. Thank you for that indulgence, members of the fiscal court. We're moving slowly, but we're moving. On to reports. Madam Treasurer, your report. Deliver us some good news, please.
I have good news. Tonight's balance is $16,875,069.37.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Any questions for the Treasurer? Seeing none. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I'd like to invite our County Clerk, Ms. Sandy Jones, to give us a very important update about the Woodford County general election that is coming up in November. I would encourage everyone to go ahead and make your plans to vote. Woodford County wants to be the #1 voter turnout county in the state. Again, and Madam Clerk, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to report that our voting plan that has been tried and true for the last 4 voting centers that have been implemented in our county, they have been carefully distributed throughout our county, and it was unanimously voted by the Woodford County Board of Elections on July the 1st to be proposed as part of our voting plan once again for the State Board of Elections to approve, and they did approve it today, so that was monumental. There was a few obstacles in the past, so that was big feat there. Also, I'd like to take this moment to thank Chief Montgomery for all of his cooperation that he has given us in the past by allowing us to go to Nunsuch and Millville and use the firehouse. It's been most appreciated by all the community members down in that part of the county. In addition to Rich Pichter for everything that he has done for us and the board and letting us go out to Falling Springs and utilize that fine facility. We're certainly envied by other counties here in the state, as well as the schools. I went before the school board and was asking about the school district boundaries, and at that time I had the opportunity to thank them as well for letting us use their schools over the past years, but especially now we're still over at Northside. So as I have reported previously, this voting plan has proven to be the most equitable and efficient plan possible for our county, and in preparation for this presidential election, our voting plan has been expanded by adding 5 additional check-in stations to accommodate this heavily anticipated voting turnout. This plan is virtually the same plan that's been utilized for the past 5 elections, other than these 5 additional check-in stations, booths, additional voting equipment, and additional precinct election officers to man these stations. As I reported before, these additional check-in stations distributed throughout the 4 voting centers is comparable to adding another voting center. It is important for me to report that in these previous 5 elections, there have been no extended wait times created by the long lines in check-in stations, the voting booths, or at the scanners at any of the 4 voting centers. There was a projection sheet that was presented in our voting plan to the State Board of Elections that illustrated that if we have all 203 voting booths utilized in all 4 voting centers throughout Election Day, there would be 12,180 voters that would vote on Election Day alone. For early voting, if all 135 booths were used all 3 days, we could accommodate 16,200 voters. The projected maximum capacity of just early voting on Election Day is 28,380 total voters. I need to emphasize that if 75% of our registered voters turned out to vote, we would have 16,644 voters come through all 4 voting centers. This information is imperative to emphasize as we were presenting the voting plan to make them understand that we are equipped to handle our voters here in Woodford County. This is not counting the 802 absentee ballots and the 102 in-person absentee ballots cast that were projected by the State Board of Elections. So it gives me great pleasure to report to you that these are proven numbers of how efficient our county operates with our 4 voting centers, and they have been successful for the past 5 elections. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Madam County Clerk? Seeing none, I would just emphasize that it's hard to believe, but school started last week, and November will be here before you know it, and we want to make sure to everybody to exercise their right to vote, particularly because there are men and women who have fought and died for that right, and it's what makes that flag in our country great.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome to be excused.
Thank you.
Let me call up the Road Department, Road Supervisor Bo Wilson, and Operations Supervisor Tracy Wright. They have a few items for the court.
We do.
Yes.
First thing is to the paving bids. I dropped my packet a while ago, so I gotta find my stuff. We did another round of paving bids because we got some additional funding approved. So we got bids from H.G. Mays out of Frankfort, Mago, and then Lexington Quarry did not submit a bid for this. We chose, or road supervisor's recommendation was to go with the bid from H.G. Mays in the amount of $377,163.75. I would kind of add to this, the FD14 funding, which was approved, is in the amount of $305,000. And then the rest of the paving on Chestnut Lane is done under municipal road aid, which is also state funding. So it will not cost the county directly any money to get this done. It's all state money.
And that's for Paynes Mill
Paynes
and
Mill,
Dry
part
Ridge?
of Dry Ridge, and then Chestnut Lane in Lanesview subdivision. And it will all be done with state money.
It'll be 1 mile of Dry Ridge.
Yes.
Through the worst part of it.
Do I have a motion to accept the bid from H.G. Mays Company for a bituminous overlay in the amount of $377,163.75 as recommended by the Woodford County Road Supervisor?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Taylor, second by Squire Varner. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. Next item.
The next item, when we did our budget, we included in there a new truck for the shop. It's a service body truck. The one they have is old.
Yeah.
I think it's a 2008, maybe.
But it doesn't have the capacity to carry the weight.
It's-
Welders,
yeah.
the air compressor, the tools, jacks. So it's a little light and handy.
So I got a price from Bachman Chevrolet through the state contract process. I got 2 quotes from Ford. I got one from Jack Payne, and I got one from Paul Miller, who has the Ford state contract price for this year. And in looking at everything, we talked with mechanics, and Bo did, and they would like to purchase the one from Bachman. It is on the lot, ready for us to get it.
It's availability.
The other 2, one would have to be ordered. The other one, we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. So we would like for you all to allow us to purchase this vehicle.
What we're going to do with old truck is pass it down for a signed truck and then surplus a signed truck.
So for Bachman, it's a 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD 4-wheel drive service body truck.
Correct.
And that is on the state master agreement.
Yes.
The total pricing is $59,949.20.
Correct.
And we have budgeted for same.
We have budgeted for it. Yes, sir.
I would entertain a motion to approve this purchase.
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions for the road supervisor? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. I think this is one of the first times in several years where we've actually been able to try to get a truck and it be on the lot.
Yes.
That's been rare. It's funny, but it's true. Other items.
I think that's it.
Well, I would like, because Mr. Road Supervisor, I want to
School gun, did you want to talk about that?
go ahead, please, and then I have something else.
Well, we had talked about it, discussed it back in the past as far as updating our welding equipment where we can weld aluminum for framage bumpers and some stuff for ourselves instead of sending it out to Clark and Frankfurt to have the work done. We can do it on hand, on site. So we had discussed it with them. We had budgeted for the.
And it is in our budget, yes.
And you'd like a motion for the court for approval to purchase that item?
Please.
Is there a motion for same? Motion by Squire Brown.
Second.
Second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. So this is what I wanted to do. The last week of July and the first week, entering into the first week of August, we had trees down from winds and storms all over the county. And Road Supervisor Bo Wilson and his crew were there every single time. Dead of night, during the day all over the county. And I want to say thank you. I know we recognize the hard work of the Woodford County Road Department, but that was a particularly challenging week. And we also had to make sure our roads are ready for school buses come the next week. And without asking, without prompting, Bo was there many times by himself, but also our crews were there. And we want to thank you, Road Supervisor Wilson and the Woodford County Road Department, for another round of exceptional work in some very challenging times.
Thank you.
And I would add, one of our employees moved away and moved to Florida last week, so we are down a man now.
And Greg Ingram is that employee, and Greg was also a firefighter with the Woodford County Fire Protection District, an excellent road crew member and road department. We will miss Greg, but we certainly appreciate his service. The reason that I also bring that up is you have another item way down on the agenda, and this agenda has been going on. So, and this is an exciting. This is an exciting topic, but this is Woodford Lake. This is the proposed lake at the county park. We also have Director Rich Pichter from Parks and Recreation with us, and who can also contribute to this conversation. And then Rich, you're up next on our parks update. But the road supervisor, Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, myself, various other folks have always talked about a lake at the Woodford County Park. The Parks Board has looked at the location that Road Supervisor Bo Wilson is recommending to build a lake, and they voted unanimously to approve that if the fiscal court chooses to do it. We have done a lot of work behind the scenes to get to this point right here. We've included Mary Beth Robson, the engineer in planning and zoning, on the discussion. We've talked to Joe Lacefield at Fish and Wildlife. We've talked to Tony Harden is he does remote control airplanes, and they have an airfield right next to that. So we've talked to our neighbors. This would be in between that airfield and the dog park. And Bo has a really good plan, and I'd like for him to kind of just summarize that and share that with the court, Bo.
As you drawings that I've laid out for you, the light green shaded with the little marks around it, that's approximately the size of the lake. It's somewhere between 2.5 and 3 acres. By going this route, we don't have to remove a lot of trees. We don't have to haul in a lot of clay to build a dam. And where they proposed maybe to put it was in a valley. You don't have any clay to build a dam with. You have nothing to pour with. Here, we don't have to purchase anything. We'll have all the dirt and should have excess. It's not going to cost the county a lot of money to do this job as it would where they want to put it on their design. I'm not knocking anybody, I'm just trying to save the county some money. And this is more accessible.
Yes, and I would also like to note that the clerk has discussed it with CAECO about liability. I know the county attorney and I are concerned about liability with a pond, a lake, any sort of open water source. And we're working through that as far as insurances. But I have gone through the process with Road Supervisor Wilson, and I know that this is what our road department could do in-house, as he just said. They may need to rent some equipment, but they have the ability to do this. And Bo, would you talk a little bit about your goal is to start the process so it could hopefully fill up for next year?
Yes, that's we're kind of getting close to the window. As you guys know, farming, we got a rainy season. It starts late October, November, December. We'd like to have this built for it to fill up during that period or start to fill up. But if we pass a window, we won't be able to start it till the project till next year to get out of the rainy season. As far as the depth of the lake, it's going to be somewhere between 12 and 16, depends on how far I bring the dam up. But there's one thing I do want everyone to understand, that any time that you build a pond or a lake, I don't care who builds it, there's no guarantee for it to hold. And Darryl, you're aware of that, Jackie, you're aware of that, that you do your best and compact it and core it, but there's no guarantee, nobody will guarantee one to hold. You know.
And Mr. Road Supervisor, another potential benefit from this is that some of the soil, the topsoil and additional fill that you're going to remove from the lake, I know you're going to stockpile that to then build a berm around the lake so that it'd be easily accessible, as you mentioned?
We'll put a 6-foot flat berm all the way around the lake, close to the water. It will be covered with nines, small gravel, where you can set out a launch chair, fold out chair, and take your grandson and set and fish without having to go down the bank to get to it or drag your fish up out of the water. But I kind of got all this up here, but you know, I got it in mind what I want to do. You know?
Absolutely.
If I can get it done, but I think we can. Got no problem.
And we would, if we had the ability then to take some of that fill and excess dirt, we would look to transfer that hopefully to the Parks project, specifically Big Spring Park, which we'll discuss here in a minute. So there could be an additional byproduct that could benefit that project as well.
What it would do there would be to core down any dirt that we have left over. We'll stockpile, then whatever becomes of it is, you know, Parks and Rec or whatever. But I can't let go of it till I'm completely done.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'd like to open up the floor. And again, the reason I'm moving this up on the agenda is because the road supervisor's worked a lot of late nights. I'm trying not to keep him out for another one, although we're still going late. So any questions that you all have, is it something you want more time to discuss with the road supervisor now, or whether or not the fiscal court will be ready to give him the go-ahead? If you got the official order of the court, Bo, when would you start working?
I've got the equipment lined out for possibly Monday.
There you go.
We're gonna bring in the little D5 and start cutting. Then after we start putting the core back in, we'll probably end up having to swap out our excavator for recycles. It's bigger to dig the core out with. Then we'll bring in a sheep's foot about a week later, because it'll take that long to strip all the topsoil and get everything off and piled up. Then we'll start cutting the core, then we'll start putting the clay back and sheep foot and every layer in. And sheep's foot's actually a compactor to take the dirt up, so it will be a week behind. Well, I've got it lined out a week behind the D5.
And Mr. County Attorney, did you have any comments regarding the discussion we had earlier with liability, or?
You've all probably heard the concept of attractive nuisance, like if you have a swimming pool, underground swimming pool in your yard, and you live in a subdivision, and you don't have it fenced off, and it's open borders on each side and behind you with neighbors. One of their children waddles into your backyard and gets in the pool and something bad happens. That's what what's called an attractive nuisance. We just want to make sure that KCO approves however we're going to do this. That was always a concern back when Judge Cole was longing for this. And if as long as we can overcome that concern, which we believe we can, then I think we'd be good to go. But we do need to make sure that we're covered in that regard, because you know, we're not going to have a monitor out there. It's going to just, so if somebody's not keeping up with their kids and it's not crowded and the kid wanders over that way, we just want to make sure we've taken every measure possible to protect against something like that happening.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you, Mr. County Attorney. Squire Gentry.
So do we need to wait to make the motion until we find that out, or can
We could make a contingent upon that.
I'd like to make a motion to start the project contingent on it, the legal aspect of it.
There's a motion on the table. A second by Squire Brown. Now I'd like to open up the floor for any additional discussions or questions from members of the court. Squire Taylor, you're recognized.
I just want to say, I think it's an important caveat to clarify that not all, they don't always hold water, but I have the utmost confidence in you and your crew. I was just, Judge and I were in a meeting last week, in fact, where we said we think you all can do just about anything, and we're really, really proud of your all's work.
We'll certainly give it a shot anyway. Yeah. We ain't scared of nothing.
You've seen it all. I know that. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, there's a motion on the table. All those in favor, please vote. Signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Road Supervisor. You've got your order. And anything else from the road department?
Another thing, I would like to say that you mentioned earlier that we was preparing for school to start. So we started about 6 weeks before trimming and cutting. We have not had one complaint from the bus guys.
That's awesome.
Yes, we had one from an individual, but we hadn't had it from the bus guys.
Well, thank you, Mr. Road Supervisor, and thank your crews on behalf of this fiscal court, please. Thank you, sir. You're more than welcome to be excused.
Sure.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue on with reports as mentioned. Rich Pichter from Woodford County Parks and Recreation. Rich, thank you. Thank you for being here.
I'm just here to follow up on, if you read the Woodford Sun last week, I was at the city council, so you probably know what I'm going to say. It's the same thing I said there, but I am here to take any questions you may have. Big Spring Park officially project will start on the 12th, so yesterday. So if you've driven through the park, you see a lot of heavy equipment down there right now. The silt fence going in and a lot of demolition is going to start this week. And then the pickleball project is scheduled to start from, it was 2 weeks last week, so I'll say within a week and a half. That project should take off here according to what CNR Asphalt has told me.
All right.
And then I wanted to see if there's any questions you had or anyone else had any of those projects or anything else going on at Parks and Recreation.
Any questions for Director Pichter?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
Squire
you.
Varner, you're recognized.
Thank you. Rich, when will you be moving your playground equipment around to your other parks?
Well, we're not sure. We've attempted to get some of it out, and we've been able to get the one piece out. The other ones we're going to rely on the demolition crews to see if they can get it out. There's so much concrete on some of the equipment, like the slides, that we have to see if we can get it out without damaging it at this point. So while the hope was to move it, we really have to wait to see what condition it comes out in. Each one of those, for example, the slide has 6 points that are anchored in the ground, and each one has about 200 pounds of concrete on each pole. So we've tried with our equipment, and it tipped the Bobcat over trying to pull it out. So we have to try and use something a little heavier. So the construction guys are going to try and pull it out with their bigger equipment, and if it's undamaged, then we'll have a better idea at that point.
And if nobody can do it, call the Woodford County Road Department.
So I'm pretty sure they can pull it out. It's just what condition it will be in once we get it out.
That's right. That's right. Rich, I would like to note that that we've been constantly working on downtown parking scenarios, and one thing that both the city and the county are working together to do is try to obtain the Head Start building,
Yes.
which is the original Parks and Rec headquarters. And I was informed by Troy Roberts of Bluegrass Community Action that they did receive their federal Head Start grant, which may help us in the process of potentially moving Head Start out to the county park, probably somewhere near the senior center, as we've talked about. And I'll get some more information for the court and the community on that. But our goal is to continue to work on downtown parking. I know that it's a challenge, but that's what we're here for, to overcome challenges and make things better than they were. So that's what we're working on.
Yes, and that's why we moved the pickleball courts to their current location, because of the anticipation that the Head Start building could move out there, which in my opinion will be a great home for them, because right now, with kids in school, afternoons our gyms are wide open, so those little ones would have a place to go indoors and run around in the wintertime that they don't currently have.
Great point. Squire Downey.
Thank you, Rich. What, you mentioned the pickleball starting potentially, say, by the end of the month, if not sooner. What's the timeline on completion for that?
They tell me about 6 to 8 weeks, depending on weather. It's a pretty straightforward project once they get started on that.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I will mention that our playground committee is finalizing. We have selected Miracle Playgrounds out of Tennessee and Kentucky and at a general design. Our playground committee is meeting on the 29th to kind of tweak that design. The committee really wants to put some more shade structures in. So we're going to be specifically looking at shade. The pieces we've designed or we've picked have a lot of shade for the kids. The committee wanted more shade for the parents. So we are going to be looking at addressing shade for parents in this proposal or in design as we meet with the contractor.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Pichter. Any other questions for the director? We really appreciate you coming. You're more than welcome to be excused, and we appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask Emergency Management Director Drew Chandler to come and report to the court.
Judge, I have results from the RFP process that the fiscal court approved at a prior meeting. The first one is for a generator trailer. We received 3 bids, and it's a joint recommendation of Maintenance Director Wade and myself to go with the middle bid from Multi-Quip for $107,834.60. It was the only one that fully met our spec and the delivery time frame due to the limited availability of the 50% grant funds.
Is there a motion to accept the bid from Multi-Quip Inc. for the generator trailer in the amount of $107,834.60 as recommended by Emergency Management and the Maintenance Supervisor? Motion by Squire Brown.
Second.
Second by Squire Taylor. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries.
Judge, the next RFP process was for a 690-gallon diesel fuel trailer. There was one respondent to that. Thunder Creek, $34,936. It is also the joint recommendation of Director Wade and myself to accept that bid.
Is there a motion to accept the bid from Thunder Creek for the diesel fuel trailer in the amount of $34,936 as recommended by the Emergency Management Director and the Maintenance Supervisor? Motion by Squire Gill, second by Squire Gentry. Any questions or comments? Squire Varney, you're recognized, sir.
Drew, you got the truck enough to pull this trailer loaded to where you need it?
Yes, and we also were diligent about writing our specs, so we didn't need a hazardous material CDL license to be able to move it. So any 3/4 ton work truck should be able to move that trailer fully
Got a
loaded.
good balance so you don't
Yes, sir.
have that load on it.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Excellent question. Other questions or comments?
Judge, I would point out this fuel trailer is the one that Homeland Security allowed us to redo the scope of work for a prior grant award, and it will be approximately 93% covered by federal funds.
That'll work. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, motion on the table, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Judge,
Anything
I want to
additional?
thank the fiscal court clerk for her assistance in making sure that we dot all the i's and cross the t's with 2 RFPs in short order, and the Woodford Sun for getting our ads in when we requested. The last thing I wanted to share, last week we had a sub-recipient award brief with FEMA for the Memorial Day weekend storms that became a federally declared disaster. We have a exploratory call with FEMA on Thursday to talk about the types of activities that we incurred that could potentially be eligible for reimbursement. So that won't help the road department with the end of July and early August storms, but the Memorial Day weekend storms, there will be some cost recovery opportunity for us.
Excellent. Anything additional?
That's all, Judge. Thank you.
Excellent work. Thank you, Director Chandler. Any other agency or department wishing to address the court? I know we had some things come before the court, or come to my attention during our leadership meeting, and I wanted to make sure everybody had the opportunity. I would make one note. We had Lanes View Homeowners Association President Megan Hoover and the former president come to talk about 408 Winterberry. Mr. Sheriff, I know we've worked on that property and sent some folks over there, but I will direct the information to the sheriff's office and to Recycling and Solid Waste to try to follow up specifically on that property as it relates to her public comment. So we'll give you the information and see what can be done.
We'll do it.
Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. I know you will. Thank you. Appreciate you. Other agencies or departments wish to discuss anything before the court? Seeing none, we'll move on to the general orders and the unfinished business. I have no board appointments, but we do have the claims. The bills to be paid by this county are before you. Are there any questions or comments on any of the bills to be paid? Are there any objections to any of the bills to be paid? Seeing none, I will approve the bills to be paid without objection. I need a motion to approve the transfers. Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gentry. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Thank you, Squire Carl. All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries unanimously. We also have a personnel order. Are there any questions or comments regarding the personnel order? Is there a motion to approve same? Motion by Squire Gentry.
Second.
Second by Squire Gill. No discussion. All those in favor of the motion to accept the personnel order, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. I would like to make one note about personnel. You'll notice on there the maintenance supervisor position. That process was very fruitful, and we're really excited about that hire, particularly dealing with Director Wade and all of his health issues. And we're praying for you and thinking about you, Rick. I would like to note, because we have lost 2 interns, I'm in consultation with the counseling office at the Woodford County High School, and I think we have a couple bright young minds at Woodford County High School who might take over the reins of interning here. I don't have those on the personnel order because I'm discussing those with the counselor at school, but I may just make the court aware of those if they're able to do it as part of their work-based learning in between now and next meeting. And we would have to approve that before then because they have to get their schedule set by next week. So I could be asking you all to allow me to approve a couple more interns to join our prestigious roles of Woodford County interns. Moving on. The Young and New Farmer Program. I had one question for Squire Varner in particular, but to the court as well. My thought process was to extend the deadline for the Young and New Farmer Program to December 31st of this year. That's a long window to keep it open, but that would make sure that we were able to get it in front of everybody that needs to work out any application issues, give our screening committee the time to meet. The other thing is, if you start doing it in October and December, we only have one full meeting in December. And we want to have the opportunity to take these up fairly regularly and approve them once the deadline is passed. Now, it will keep people, it will keep the application process open, but we should have screening committees that update the court on what's going on with applications. So I would recommend December 31st as a deadline, but that could be moved up. I don't suggest it be moved back, but I would open up the floor for any discussion thereon.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
Harvest will probably be ended, by that time. So folks will be busy from now to then in harvest. So we may have to look at if we're not getting enough participation or folks are not getting the word to extend it. But the 31st would probably be a good starting time.
That's a really good point, Squire Varner. We can always amend that if we're seeing an issue thereon. Other input or comments regarding that deadline, which is the only thing that we have left to approve, except it's the only blank space we have for Kristen's Taylor Swift reference. So I'd like to make the motion to make the application submission deadline, which could be changed by the fiscal court, for the Young and New Farmer Grant Program for December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Squire Varner, second by
Second.
Squire Gill. All those in favor, please vote, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. We have the draft application and criteria. We've approved those through the resolution, but I would just get a contingent motion upon final approval of the county attorney, any review of any of the members of the court who wish to make additions or corrections to that application or criteria, that those be approved and be able to put out these grant applications and make it active. Is there a motion for same?
Make a motion.
Motion by Squire Blackford, second by Squire Brown. Seeing no oh, you haven't, yes.
I've been getting a lot of calls about. I'm sorry. I've gotten a lot of calls about this. They want to know when they can come and get an application. So if we approve this tonight, could they come tomorrow?
So the only thing that we're going to do is everything that has been submitted to you all is draft form. So I'm just going to make sure the county attorney gives a final review. Squire Varner's been instrumental in this process, so I'm going to let him look at it. Y'all are welcome to look at it as well. I would say give it at least a week to make sure
All right.
it's T's are dotted and I's are crossed or whatever.
All right, thank you.
It's a long meeting, y'all. I know it's the other way around. Great point, though, Squire Gill. Seeing no other questions, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. We have the Big Sink Multi-Use Sidewalk Project, and we have a change order. It's a change order to modify the design and engineering services agreement. We've really worked hard to try to make this process as financially responsible as we can and also meet the needs. Squire Varner, again, has been instrumental in when working on this with us. Madam Clerk is doing an amazing job on this. So I entertain a motion to approve change order number 1 as presented.
So
Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Brown. Are there any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. We have the proposed second reading of budget amendment number 1, ordinance 24-5. Is there a motion to approve, same?
Motion.
Motion by Squire Gill. Second by Squire Taylor. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Yes, Judge, this would be a summary second reading of that budget amendment for the fiscal year 24-25 to reflect as follows. In your general road, state grants, disaster emergency services fund, sheriff's, asset forfeiture, county clerk, permanent storage fees, opioid settlement monies, and American Rescue Plan Act, prior year carryover is decreased by $1,280,021.46. So since your revenues decreased by that amount, your appropriations decreased by the like amount. This being a second reading, this ordinance is final, although it does need to be published in summary form within 30 days.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney.
Thank you, Judge.
I'll move on to new business. So we have the proposed first reading of ordinance 2024-06, general taxation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to entertain a motion for same. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance? Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Downey. Now, I'd like to open up that discussion. We've already discussed this in the committee of the whole, and even had some questions on it. But one of the things that the court has been very diligent in is making sure that our tax rate, number 1, is not oppressive or difficult on our citizens. And that's what our goal has been in lowering the taxes. But we also want to make sure that when economic problems come, when downturns happen, and there's some indication that maybe that could be on the horizon, that we don't follow, we don't track all the way down and lower our tax rate in order to have to bring it back up later. We try to take a very conservative approach, and we'll continue to lower the tax rate so long as it impacts our revenues in a way that's sustainable. And that's when working with the treasurer, Melody Trogett, and our budget and finance committee. Our budget depends on lowering the tax rate to what we have recommended in this ordinance. In the future, if we'd like to consider doing more that process really should start in the March, April timeframe, because that's when we budget our receipts, we anticipate our expenditures, and those sort of things. I will note that as the Woodford Sun reported and as PVA John Paul Coyle has noted, the assessment values in Woodford County have gone up this year in more than I have seen, and I think it's been something that has surprised folks. And as Squire Gentry mentioned, there are folks that are struggling, particularly homeowners. The property tax, the on real property, directly affects housing affordability. The ability that people have to pay taxes on a home. Most people plan to live in that home for their lifetime, and so they're not building up equity to sell. They're using it as their primary residence, and so we want to be cognizant of that, particularly on the lower income homeowners and property owners in Woodford County. We also recognize too that as Chief Montgomery has mentioned, the legislature, in its infinite wisdom, decided to cut the barrel tax and take that away from counties and special taxing districts, including Woodford County government, our health department, and the rest of our taxing districts, including the Woodford Fire. That is another reason to look at our tax rate and not lower it any lower than this, because we don't know what impact that reduce in barrel tax could be on us in the future. But I am proud that this fiscal court has been financially responsible, has good budget policy and practices, that we thoroughly vet our budget. We know that we can spend the money that we have, and we don't spend money that we don't need to. And so with conservative financial management, we're able to lower the tax rate this year and make it sustainable and leave the possibility open for additional lowering of the tax rate in the future. So I want to thank the treasurer in particular, but most importantly, I want to thank the taxpayers of Woodford County. Right now, they have successfully invested and funded in what will be a new high school for us come January 6th or 8th, I believe. And they have been burdened with some high tax rates. But my understanding is the Public Health Department will keep their rate the same. That's not my understanding. That was the vote of last week. The library, I believe, will keep them the same. But one important procedural note, because of our 3-week gap in fiscal court meetings at the end of July, we will have to have a special meeting to finally adopt this tax rate. I am proposing, so long as it's not a burden or a major issue with the fiscal court, for August 22nd, that's Thursday, at 2 p.m. Thursday, August 22nd, at 2 p.m., we would have a special meeting for the sole purpose of having the second reading of Ordinance 2024-06, lowering the tax rate from 6.6 to 6.3. If anybody has any major conflicts with that date, please let me know. But we will, as Squire Carl is available on Zoom, we will have a Zoom option for folks who are, haven't made the time and have to work or take care of other responsibilities. So that's Thursday, August the 22nd at 2 p.m. That works for everybody up here. If that doesn't work for you in a major way, please let me know. But as of right now, I'm going to tentatively schedule that date for our second reading. So that being said, again, I'd like to thank the clerk and the treasurer for their work on our tax rates. And we have a motion on the table. I would open up the floor for any discussion on the general order of taxation, Ordinance 2024-06. I would also like to note for the record that we held the required public hearing and prior to this meeting at 5 p.m. on today's date as required by law. Other questions or comments regarding the general order of taxation? Seeing none. All those in favor of motion for having first reading for same, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. The motion carries unanimously. Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Yes, Judge. And if I may very, very briefly editorialize right before I read this, I commend the court for being, one, in a fiscal position to be able to do this. And the other thing is, you talked about the effect it's going to have on our local citizens in terms of their real property tax bill. When these assessments go up and their property's worth more and their homes are worth more, their insurance premiums are going to go up as well. So they get everyone will get a double hit on increased costs. So I commend the court for their approach in this regard. This would be a first reading of an ordinance of general taxation for the year 2024 in Woodford County. Total assessment of all real property, including new property subject to that taxation, as of January 1st of this year, is $3,166,072,790. I'm not used to saying billion, whereas additionally the value of real estate for public service companies is $19,260,162, and the tax rate of 6.30 is proposed for 2024, would generate county revenue $1,994,625.86. At your meeting tonight, you vote to adopt the rate of 6.30 cents per $100 of assessed value of both real and personal property. So be it ordained that tax is levied as otherwise dictated by adoption of this rate. Tax rates are also levied and imposed at the rate of cents per $100 of assessed value of property in Woodford as follows: bank deposit rate 0.025, motor vehicle 9.4, watercraft 9.4. This being a first reading, it does need to have a second reading, which, as you indicated, is scheduled tentatively for that Thursday, August 22nd at 2 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. County Attorney.
Thank you, Judge.
We will return to the Fire Protection District tax rate. We had a pre-meeting to discuss that. We still have Chief Montgomery here with us. We discussed that following our public hearing, and we're returning to that discussion now. Chief, if you could just, for the public, I know the court is well aware, but just explain what the board has done and what you're asking us to do today.
All right. Like I say, the last 6 years, the fire district has not raised taxes, have not took the rate each year that they could take. And in the last 6 years, they built 2 new fire stations. We have a new engine on order. We went to a full-time staff of 24/48, 7 days a week for a quicker response. The part of the raising the budget is to get a tanker en route. I have some older equipment that is getting hard to find parts for that we really need to replace. Need to add, would like to add one more employee to each shift of the 3 shifts that I have, and just future expenses of unforeseen of my equipment breaking down that I have, and to continue training, to keep our training up that we're due each month. That's about all I can think of right off. But
thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chief. I'd like to open up the floor for additional questions or comments to the Chief of the Fire District about the 2024 Fire Protection District tax rate. Squire Varner, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Chief, I know we've been battling the ISO rating in the county for our property owners. Rates have went up, and I know that staffing this new station and new equipment is going to lower your response time, which was critical in that decision for ISO. And also, I commend you for how you conservatively use your funds and try to keep your equipment up. And I know that continually has to be upgraded. So I hope that with adding that station and stuff, that would go to help lower the insurance rates on our homeowners in this county, property owners. And also on your board, was that unanimous to raise the tax rate on your board vote? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Squire Bronner. Other members of the fiscal court have questions or comments? Squire Downey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Judge. Chief, thank you for being here and for answering our questions. I appreciate the fiscal management of the fire district, which is indicative by the 1.1 million in reserve that they have. I think to Squire Gentry's point, and when looking at our various other taxing districts and the actions that the court has taken here tonight, I feel confident that you all will be able to continue to operate and manage your funds fiscally. I'm just having a difficult time burdening our taxpayers with an additional rate increase for the fire district at this time.
Thank you, Squire Downey. Other questions or comments? Squire Gill, you're recognized.
Thank you. This is hard. I've never seen a dime tax increase in Woodford County. This is really big. At the same time, if we do nothing, then the compensating rate lowers your tax rate, and there's no way that is sustainable. Does this have to be decided tonight, right now? Is there some way to go back to the drawing board? I know that nickel tax, remember the school tax, the nickel tax? And that was voted on, and people were very unhappy about it. I'm very concerned about this amount. Yeah.
I clarify a little, Judge, you do have other options. I believe Squire Downey touched on one previously. It's up to the judge and the court to decide if you want to go further with this, but yeah, clearly it's not going to be put up to a public vote, but it doesn't have to just go to the compensating rate. It can go back to the existing rate or whatever rate the court decides. So I do want to clarify that one point, though.
Right.
All right.
But it sounds like the existing rate is not sustainable. The compensating rate is not sustainable. And then our option is the 7.3 cents or something in between. And I don't know if we as the fiscal court are in a position to be able to determine what that amount is. So this is hard. This is one of the hardest things I've had to decide here. I'm not sure what to do. That's why I'm asking if we could, how much time do we have to decide this?
Mr. Sheriff, I would like to note, and I'm not. This is just a fact of the reality. This is the end of this process. We're not in the middle or even nowhere near the beginning. This is the end of this process, and we have to get tax rates established so that they can be put on tax bills and issued to the constituents. We could call a special meeting. The nearest one would be 24 hours. You have to have 24 hours notice of any special meeting, which I'd be open to doing. Squire Varner, you're recognized.
What about the 22nd when we meet for the second reading?
Mr. Sheriff, the 22nd of August is still getting pretty late. He's looking into it, I think.
The 22nd of this month?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think if we could do it sooner.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, explain that nuance for the court.
Just as we have to have our ordinance signed and back to DLG by August 24th, I believe you all have to follow the same timeline. So if we have to send it back to their board, they'd have to publish 24-hour notice as well. And August 22nd gets really close to that 24th deadline.
And to everyone's good faith here, we've never done this before, so this isn't something that we routinely do. Mr. County Attorney, did you have something additional?
Judge, I don't know if the court is prepared to vote or not. I mean, I understand Squire Gill's request, but I don't know if there's a majority sentiment to act tonight, and maybe we need to find that out.
Squire Taylor, you're recognized, sir.
I don't presume to know everybody's feelings on the issue, but I've got a little bit of a napkin math here, and I do think that I think Squire Gill's points of concern in all areas have some maybe as she suggested, somewhere in between could maybe reach at 6.7 would achieve what their budgeted would actually exceed slightly the tax rate for their estimated revenues for taxation. I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody to consider on that. It looks like that would be at like 1,336,735.
Additional discussion, Squire Brown, did you have something?
What do you think about that? 6.7, do you think you?
It's not me, it's the board. I mean, we had plenty of discussion.
Can you turn on your mic, Chief? Sorry. You're good.
They discussed it, talked about the numbers, what we needed for the future, and that's the number they come up with, and not being able, not to do this every year. That's the thing, not to come back next year and ask next year to set it at one rate and try to at least go 6 years like we have in the past. So,
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. If we go 6.7 now, you'll be able to do it for 1 year anyway, right?
well, sure, I mean.
And what we're really looking at, people, their housing and taxes stuff's gone up. And we know y'all have gone for 6 years. We might have to go 1 year at a time to keep it where we can. That'd be left up to the court, what all of them think. But the main thing that I'm interested in, that you keep giving the same service. I know y'all hadn't wasted your money ever since I've been on the court. You've been good with it. You've done everything as good as anybody could ever do. But we're kind of in a pinch on what's happening right now, and y'all in a pinch too, because your money's coming up and bills and stuff. So I know you want to wait another 6 years, but we might have to do it every year. But whatever it takes to just get it done and have enough money, because we have to have a service. And y'all give good service, that's all I can say. You can't give any better. So I don't question that at all. I just question what's going on right now.
I'd just like to say, with doing that, if the board, we get to the point that the board would approve me to hire 3 more people, it's going to put a damper on it. And that's, to me, that's not servicing the county like we should for the protection that we need to grow to and be able to do.
That's what I want you to tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, ever since I took over in 20, I'm looking at growing the fire department and getting a better ISO rating and servicing the community like we should do. You know, if we just sit where we're at, we're going backwards. We're not moving forward. Everything changes all the time. Our training hours, even for volunteers, they're required to have certain training hours every year, and it's just a lot goes into this. There's a lot of expenditures there that we need to make things grow. So,
Chief, are those positions within your estimated expenditure personnel budget?
Not in this.
Not what was what we previously approved. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Is it in for this time a your raise you're talking about?
Hopefully, if the board approves it, as part of what we discussed to move forward.
But for 1 year, that was 6.7. They wouldn't let you be able to hire them. Is that what you're telling us?
No, because it's roughly 70. Not just off the top of my head, it's probably about 70,000 a person with all benefits and everything, just for one firefighter. That's a salary, their insurance, their retirement, and everything.
Squire Genter, you're recognized.
Do you recall, did you all take a raise this past year? And if you did, could you remember how much it was?
Yes.
For your full-time?
Yes. Yeah, they got a $12,000 raise just to try to come up to the average of fire districts or any fire department that touched Woodford County. And then outside of that, we were at the very bottom of our pay scale. When I brought it to the board about it, we were, and even at that dollar amount, we didn't even make it to the average dollar amount of what other counties are paying for their personnel. And what I'm trying to do is keep the personnel I have and not be the stepping stone that you hire somebody, you invest in them, you train them, you get all the requirements, and what do? A year later, they're down the road making another $20,000 that they can make. Same thing Freeman's running into. That's what we were going to be doing, because they talk. They know people they know other firefighters in other districts. They talk about what they make. So we had to do something to maintain what we have, and not be being a smaller full-time volunteer split department. It makes it harder on us to set aside time just to get this training in that they need when you hire a full-time person. They have to have 300 hours to be certified. Until you get them certified, they can't do anything. They can show up on the scene, but they can't do anything on the scene. They're not covered. I mean, there's a lot of time invested in what we do to get and maintain what we have.
And I had a follow-up question. All the trucks that you said you want a tanker truck or 2 tanker trucks?
Just one tanker truck, and like right now, Millville does not have a tanker in it, and I need a tanker down there. But also, I have equipment getting old that right now we try to keep it at 100% upkeep on them, But just like the one tanker we had broke down, the tank shaft broke in it. Ruined the whole tank, the whole pump, so we had to order a new pump. We'd like to never have found it, that a company to manufacture a brand new pump to put back in the truck. The truck's a great truck. It's just that the pump wore out on it, so we had to have a new one. That pump, when I say pump, as far as pumping water, that truck was completely out of service for 8 months just to get this pump built and get it back in the truck. So we're running into things like that we can't find parts for some of these older trucks we have. So that's the reason we try to buy a truck every so many years to keep them rotated. And when one gets down to the point that we can't use it no more, we surplus it and move on. And they're not out of truck. A lot of fire stations have engines on reserve. For if one breaks down, they can roll it right into place. If we get the new engine in, I will have one reserve truck until something happens to one of the older ones and they go down, and then I'm right back in the same spot. I don't have a reserve.
And is there no grants at all out there to
They're
try to
out there,
get?
and we've tried, and we had, I don't remember the person, this is back, I think, when John Varner was chief, tried about 3 years in a row. A lady helped write the grants that does grants, and we never qualified for it. Drew may know more about how that works than I do. I lean on him every now and then to give me a little advice on where we're headed for a grant, and we're working on one together now for some, or getting ready to 2 grants for generators for all the stations. So I mean, we try. I do get some grants for equipment, for PPE. I just got a small one, $3,500 that I buy one coat and 1 pair of pants, and either another coat and a pair of pants out of $3,500. So, it's very expensive on that. And that's like one station I got that their gear's going out of date. It's roughly $2,300 just for the coat and pants, and I have to have 10 of them to buy this year. So it's a lot. There's a lot goes into it. So, and like I say, we wouldn't be asking for it if not needed. But I'd like to, just like Millville, we had the house fire down there, driving close to 5 miles to our closest hydrant, and another tanker would have been great. So.
Squire Downey, you had something. Squire Brown, you had something additional?
Oh, no, I forgot to cut it off. Sorry, Judge.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I recognize that first of all, we're going long, and we could look at a special meeting as soon as Thursday. Squire Gill, you reckon?
Could we ask that the fire board look into this as well and see what their bottom line is? I know he said it's 7.3, but that's still, it's still a dime increase. And I was just wondering if maybe they could look, and then we could come back with another proposal. I don't know.
The only thing that I would say is, I mean, we would welcome their input and to discuss it with them, but they've set their tax rate. Like we're trying to have a special meeting, I don't think that they could have one and then us turn around and have one. And
So could we meet with them?
I really don't think we,
That would not be a formal court meeting.
No.
That would be like a work session or something.
let me take Squire Downey's question. or
Thank you.
comment.
I had a budgeting question, Chief. I'm just look at the revenues, which include, or the estimated revenue of 1.4, which, and then also the 1.1 called general reserve or carryover from last year totals roughly 2.5 million, and then we've got your operating expenses and the personnel, which obviously are your biggest cost, but then you have a capital outlay of another 1.1. Is it, so it's the anticipation and the wish of the fire board to expend the entirety of the rollover next year? Because that's what's in the and I'm asking because I don't know if in previous years they've looked to expend the entirety of the rollover, which brings, you know, essentially budgeting to zero with no potential carryover for the following year. So I didn't know if that was.
No, not to spend it all. No, it'd be carryover plus the part of that's in there for the purchase of a new truck or building or what, you know, what we need for that. That's where that.
Right, yeah, they're just, the budgets are, we are budgeting to zero to, the outlay does expend the carryover for last year, I guess is my point too. And maybe that's how it has to be budgeted for, and that's my, if I'm not reading that correctly, but it just leaves basically a zero balance, assuming if you do spend all of the capital outlay that we would not have any carryover going into the next fiscal year.
Squire Gentry, you're recognized.
As Squire Gill said, when there was the nickel tax vote, the county voted it down. I'm pretty sure that they do not want a dime tax. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to deny it.
To disapprove the amount?
Yes.
There's a motion to disapprove the amount on the table.
I'll second.
There's a second. I'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Just to clarify, disapproving the rate allows the special purpose governmental entity to levy only a rate that does not exceed the compensating tax rate. The question would be whether or not they would have the ability to do that within the time frame, which is what I explained to Squire Taylor earlier. So, but that would, Madam Clerk, would that effectively lower the tax rate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah.
Mr. County Attorney, for clarification, sir.
And I would ask the clerk on this. If the thought was, and I don't mean to speak for Squire Gentry, of course, that it remain as is, could the motion entail to deny and keep the basis for the denial be that the desire is to keep it as is?
Yes.
Is that, Madam Clerk, is that listed as an option?
Yes.
So that was the concern about the compensating not being enough, correct? So that's higher, right? Is it six, what is it currently?
6.3.
6.3.
Mr. County Attorney, to your point, that is not the current motion on the table. The current motion on the table is to disapprove the rate, which would allow them to, if they could have a meeting and get it together, they could only go to the compensating rate. If they could not do that, it would default to, I believe, 0.060? Or would it be 0.578? it could not exceed the compensating rate.
To clarify my motion, I do not want their tax rate to go down.
Yes. Okay, all right. In order to clarify this, I'd have to
I'll
request.
withdraw
that
my second.
There's a withdrawal of the second, and you
Withdraw my
withdraw your motion.
Yes.
All right, there's no motion on the table. The current discussion is in regards to the Woodford County Fire Protection District's tax rate. Squire Gentry, you are recognized. You'd like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to keep their tax rate as is.
So to deny.
To deny.
But.
So that is option 2, which is to approve a rate that is less than the proposed rate but greater than the compensating rate.
Yes.
There's a motion on the table.
I'll second that motion.
There's a second and a motion on the table. I open the floor now for discussion. Squire Gill, you're recognized.
All I can say is I hope we don't vote on that because keeping their tax rate the same is not sustainable for them. There's got to be something better. They have so many capital expenses. I'm afraid they won't be able to provide adequate fire protection. I'm not in favor of 7.3, but I'm not in favor of keeping their tax rate the same because they just can't keep doing it.
Squire Varner, you recognized?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge. I'm not in favor for that either because I was a volunteer fireman years past, and it's hard to grow that fire department on a volunteer basis. And you, as we suffer through in the county of trying to retain people, we have to grow that fire department. We have to make sure that they have what they need to protect us. And we're fighting 2 or 3 battles. The ISO number is really hurt us. I know through Farm Bureau insurance itself that some folks suffered a $2,000 increase just because that number got lowered. That had nothing to do with our fire department's performance. It had to do with everything from somebody sitting in an office 3,000 miles from here telling us on a map how fast that Melvin could get there. So I'm not for leaving it the same. We have to be able to grow that fire department and provide that protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Varner. If the fire rate is kept at .063, the total real property revenues would be 1.184, 183.67. That would, I'm assuming, Madam Clerk, that would be only real property.
Yeah.
That is not include personal property,
Ad valorem.
motor vehicle, or watercraft.
Which is over surplus in motor vehicle watercraft.
Other discussion? Squire Taylor, you recognize.
I wanted, because we've not ventured into these waters before, if this motion is not successful, do we get to reconsider it for setting a tax rate, or is that the same as no action, or is that the same as?
You won't have acted on the motion, and the judge would entertain, there can be a second motion.
If the motion fails. I'm sorry.
If the motion fails, the
Yes.
judge can entertain another motion.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
That's correct.
Okay.
The motion fails, another motion could be reconsidered, but that specific motion would be dispensed with, and it would be determined final, unless laid upon the table. Squire Gentry?
And once again, I'm all for the fire department. If they need money, the fiscal court has money. I do not want to put it on the taxpayers. That's my only concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Gentry. Other questions or comments? Squire Brown?
Well, how can we work that out since we got money? Can we tell them if you get money, we got money for you if you need 200,000 or 300,000 for 1 year? Is that what you're saying?
Squire Gentry, you yield to a
Yeah,
question from Squire Brown?
essentially, yes.
Okay.
I would just say I'm not, that has not been budgeted.
Yeah,
I just want that reflected. But I understand the sentiment behind it. Squire Brown, you recognize, sir.
Well, I've been here for 22 years, and I have dealt with them all 22 years. I don't care who's been in office. They've done everything they said. I know taxes being raised. I know our property's being raised and stuff, but he will not be here. And they will not be asking if they didn't need it. And I don't think we can take a chance of knowing how they been. And you look at their equipment and how the equipment looks and look at everything they got. You can't get it any cleaner, any neater. You can eat off all the floors. And I don't believe they would be here to ask for it if they didn't need it. And I feel that we should give it to them. That's just my opinion.
I would just note that our job is not to grant or not. It's to approve or disapprove, and I think that's what you're getting at, Squire Brown.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve. Oh, you got a motion? Okay.
Let me reiterate for everyone. The present motion on the table is to keep the fire district tax rate at the current rate, which is 0.63. That's a motion. That is the current motion on the table. I'd open up the floor for additional discussion. Squire Varner.
Judge, I want to start off saying I'm going to abstain from this vote for reasons that I have family on the board, and but I feel that, and I would hope that the court would see that we need to continue growing the fire department, and they do need to have some funding and compensation, and but I would hope that the court would find a common ground there. Thank you.
Thank you, Squire Varner. Your abstention is noted. Squire Downey, you're recognized.
A clarification on the abstention does vote with the majority.
An abstention counts with the majority.
Okay, thank you.
But, yes. And so, I obviously don't know how the vote's going to be. If you remove yourself from the meeting, if you're, then it's not an issue in terms of does your vote count one way. You've made your point, so you might wish to excuse yourself for the vote.
You're welcome, Squire.
Judge cannot be excused.
You're welcome, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. The floor is still open for discussion upon the motion to keep the Woodford County Fire Protection District taxing rate for 2024 at the current rate of 0.63 or 6.3, depending on how you look at it. Additional discussion. Squire Taylor, you're recognized, sir.
I just want to go back to what the chief recognizes, that additional potential cost that wasn't in our budget, which I appreciated that additional understanding that we previously approved. I do think that 6.7 or 0.067 would almost get them that 3 additional at 70,000 each, with 200,000 additional dollars in revenue than what the current rate would achieve. So I just wanted to circle back to that.
Thank you. Squire Gentry, sir.
Just one last question. Can you operate for the rest of the year at the 6.3 tax rate?
May I say something?
And my question is, so they can, if you had to, you could come back in next year and we could get a better idea of the exact money coming in and get a little closer than 7.3.
And Chief Montgomery, that's your question for you, if you'd like to answer it, sir.
I don't have no numbers in front of me, so I can't really answer that. I don't think, to say yes or no, and we would do our best. We have, all the years along, done our best with what we got.
Thank you for that response. Squire Brown, you
Well, you might not
recognize?
be able to answer this either. Would you be able to hire your people at that? But if you couldn't answer that, you probably can't answer that either.
May be able to hire the people if the board would approve it, but that would put my tanker down the road. I mean, there's a whole lot that we're looking at to grow, is all I can say. There's a lot there.
Chief, I got your budget, but my understanding was, and I'm open to your clarification on this, but I thought that the tanker was budgeted in the current budget.
No, the
Okay.
engine that we have ordered is in the budget. We're looking at within a year of placing an order, hopefully for a new tanker.
I got you.
Coming up within about a year. It's 28 months out when you order one, or that's what it was in February when we ordered the engine. Used to it was 9 to 12 months. Now you're looking at 2.5 years out to get any equipment.
Well, thank you for that clarification. Thank you. Squire Downey, then Squire Taylor.
And I apologize, Chief, because I know you've answered a lot with Squire Taylor have answered this. So the proposed budget that is the .73 does not include those 3 additional folks you wish to hire as well?
Not on the. It's been discussed, but the board hadn't approved it. But they are aware of a new tanker that we're going to be looking at. Like I say, it's the minimum is $575,000 just for one truck.
But the people
Or not yet. No.
So even with the increase, if it were to go into effect, that does not account for the 3 people you need or you wish to hire.
Yes, there's a little extra in there, but to come down to exact dollar amount, I do not know that yet.
Thank you.
Question. So the tanker you want to order is 28 months out?
When we place the order, it's 28 months out, but we always pay for the vehicles when we purchase or when they arrive.
You pay 100% up front?
No, we don't pay 100%. Like the truck we just ordered, we paid 50%, and then we got the other 50% in reserve to pay for it when it comes in.
So the tanker, you'll pay 50%?
If the money's there, we'll pay 50% and then try to pay, make sure to pay it in full when it arrives.
So you'll have
to try to borrow money.
So you'll have 28 more months to.
28 more months out.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one more.
Squire Downey, Squire Taylor, you're recognized.
So based on your current budget, the 600,000 for vehicles, that would be to pay in full the new engine.
The new engine, and then get the tanker on order. And it depends on who we award the bid to, but Atlantic is the one that just was awarded the engine, and they give us a certain discount for a certain dollar amount that we can put down. This truck that we just ordered, I think we saved 25 or 26,000. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we saved a pretty good chunk by being able to put money down on it and not having to pay full price because we put some down when we actually ordered the truck.
All right, we have a motion on the table. This is an important subject. Open up the floor for additional discussion. Discussion on the motion. Questions of clarification. The motion on the table is for the fiscal court to approve a tax rate that is different from the Fire Protection District Board's tax rate of 7.3 to maintain the current rate at 6.3. That's a motion on the table. Is there any further discussion before we vote? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion on the table, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please vote and signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Squire Taylor?
Nay.
Squire Gentry?
Aye.
Squire Barner? Squire Carl?
Aye.
Squire Downey?
Yay.
Squire Blackford? Squire Gill?
Nay.
Squire Brown?
Nay.
The motion carries. Someone please inform Squire Barner that he can come back in. Chief, do you have anything additional for us on this matter?
No, sir.
Thank you for your time and attention and coming tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, I will move on to the next item of business, the Extension District tax rate. I made a slight misstatement. I believe Madam Clerk, correct me if I am right, that the taxes, that was not some sort of rage incident. Kristen just dropped the lemonade cups out there. The Woodford County Ag Extension District has recommended lowering their tax rate from 1.8 to 1.7. That is and we need a motion to accept the tax rate as presented from the Extension District. Motion by Squire Brown, second by Squire Gill. All those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The next item is the draft independent contractor agreement from the food pantry. So I want to give you all an update since our MOA passed the fiscal court. The next day, the Woodford County Food Pantry Board called a special meeting at Versailles Baptist Church, and I was there to present the MOA to the Food Pantry Board. Again, this is so that the food pantry executive director will be administered by the Woodford County Fiscal Court with joint funding from the City of Versailles in year 1 and the City of Versailles City of Versailles and Midway in year 2. We have budgeted $75,000 and the City of Versailles budgeted the corresponding amount that they would need to pay, and they voted unanimously to approve that budget. When I met with the Woodford County Food Pantry Board, they were very grateful to the city and particularly the county for our ability to shore up this needs service, this essential needs service program in Woodford County. We really believe, and they can give information about this, that without the ability to pay and fund an executive director, that the food pantry would be in jeopardy of not being able to operate. And that would mean hundreds of Woodford Countyans not being able to be served with essential food needs. The good news is the food pantry unanimously voted to adopt that MOA. They support it wholeheartedly. I went and I met with all of the volunteers at the Woodford County Food Pantry, and they made one recommendation, and that recommendation is that we go ahead and hire the executive director, specifically the current executive director, Sharon Harden, as an interim. They felt that in some regards that it would be somewhat unfair for her not to be eligible for this position while she is serving in that role and waiting for somebody to train. I generally agreed with that and worked on an independent contract for interim director, and that's what's before you. Now, what precipitated between then and now is that members of the city council voted to table the MOA, which means that the current MOA is not in effect, and therefore we cannot enter into an independent contract and pay Sharon Harden for the work that she is currently doing and deserves to be paid for. I know the mayor joins me in being extremely disappointed in that action of the city council, but my understanding is they're in work session tonight to hopefully clarify that. One thing that happened was, at least reported in the Woodford Sun, there was some questioning about what the food pantry board is, what the Sharon Harden and the volunteers do out there. And I found some of that question verging into the area of being untrusting of what the food pantry and their board do. Well, I hate to break it to members of our community that don't trust them, but they do God's work out there. That's what they're doing. And another important thing is that this discussion has been going on for 14 months. The opportunity to ask who the food pantry board is, who their director is, who do they report to? Well, they report to a lot of the churches in our community. They report to leaders like John Paul Coyle, who is their treasurer, who keeps their accounts. He's an accountant, by the way, and also the PVA. He does a good job with their financial records. Bill Phelps is their board chair. They have a lot of great people that serve on that board, but those volunteers are amazing. They do really amazing work. And I just want to, I know that the court supports this, and I just want to stand up for the food pantry and being questioned in the way that they were. These questions could have been answered at any time by anybody. And even more so, what would probably have been, and if Lily Cox was still here, she would probably second this. They should go out there and serve a day on that food pantry. Go to operation days. Go to senior food box days. It is an important, as I mentioned, an important budgeted item. It's a big deal to spend $75,000 in government money, but this is Squire Blackford serving needs that will not otherwise be met. So I would like to entertain a motion to approve the independent contractor agreement contingent of the Versailles City Council's approval of the MOA and both the city councils of Midway and Versailles. The City Council of Versailles will also have to approve Sharon Harden for the hire as well. But contingent upon those things, I vote that we approve the independent contract for Sharon Harden.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Blackford, second by Squire Downey. I'd open up the floor for any discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And the motion carries. The next item, and just so you all know, the Woodford Lake and MWM contract renewal has been dispensed with. We have a facility use request for the approval of the Conservation District to reserve the exhibit hall at the exhibit barn at the county park for the annual tree seedling giveaway Friday, April 25th and 6th, 2025.
So moved.
Motion by Squire Varner, second by Squire Gill. Does anybody have any questions thereon? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. I will start with Squire Carl. I know you are on Zoom. Would you like to have any announcements?
I don't have anything, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Squire Varner, sir.
Rodeo week, everyone, rodeo week. Let's get out and enjoy the kids and the rodeo. Thank you.
Second. Squire Gentry.
Nothing, Judge.
Squire Taylor.
Nothing, Judge.
Squire Brown.
Anything?
Oh, nothing,
Oh,
Judge.
thank you, sir. Squire Gill.
Nothing.
Squire Blackford. Squire Downey.
Block party Friday in addition to the rodeo, and then next Thursday is night market downtown. Kicks off Woodford Days, which is basically Amazon Prime 20% off, encouraging folks to shop local. Thank you, Judge.
Mr. County Attorney, sir.
Judge, just one correction from your comment earlier about Mr. White working on his Netflix documentary. He still may be seen on the Eric Kahn documentary, The Big Con, on Apple TV Plus, if anyone's interested. Although no one watches Apple TV Plus, but he is still on that. All right, thank you, Judge. That's all.
Thank you for that clarification. We weren't able to have her here tonight, but I'd like to recognize Miss Lauren Steigers. She's a proud graduate of Jane's School of Dance, and after 16 years of work and sacrifice, she's going to take her dance journey to go professional in New York, and we want to honor her and her family. She's done a great job. I had some other announcement. This meeting has gone way too long. Squire Varner, you had something, sir.
I gotta say, we had an Olympic gold medalist in your district, Miss Kiefer, in fencing. Just wanted to make that announcement.
Yes, Miss Lee Kiefer. Her family lives here, and you want to recognize her, Squire Gill?
Yeah, the Kiefers live in my district, and this is her second, I believe. And I believe Callie Shaw was on the, and she's a Woodford Countian too. Was
classmate.
in the equestrian events, medaled in that. So there we go. Two in
Judge,
Woodford County.
could I expand on that real
Home
quickly?
of champions, you know what I mean? Mr. County Attorney.
She won her second individual gold. She also won a team gold, so she has 3. And we forget about her poor husband, who has 2 bronze medals from team fencing competition. So you have a total